is on.
Such great music.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Great music.
I know. Music here is awesome. Yeah. I don't know how Henry finds it all, but it's really good.
Oh, so good.
Is that Michael Jackson?
Welcome everybody to today's show. It's a great show. It's going to be based on Me Too, and it's going to be an awesome show. I hope you enjoy what we bring to you. There's actually four of us going to be here. One person is running just a tadpole late, and she should be here just in a second. So when we're ready, we're all ready. We're going to introduce everybody here. We've got Rhonda Shea from WTF Show. We also have Charlie Pacillo from the
council.
The council.
The council.
And so for right now, we're going to go ahead and let Charlie take off a little bit and tell you about his little fun time going all the way out to Rome and visiting the Pope. The Pope. And to Lebanon. I mean, this man has been all over. And with that, we're going to talk about other races, other type of, cultures that, inhibit the women from out there. So Charlie, take it away, brother.
All right. Well, I had just an incredible opportunity and experience. A couple weeks ago, I had a priest that came on the show, and he invited me to come to Rome and Lebanon with him. And so it all happened. I have no idea how this came about or what, but I had the opportunity to actually meet the Pope. And here's a picture of me shaking hands with the Pope. It was, I remember, this is something that I'd always dreamed about. I was raised Catholic, and even though I strayed away from the church a little bit, this is kind of my way of coming back. And the opportunity to go was just too much to pass. And so when I actually had the opportunity to go and meet him, it was like I was going up the stairs. We got in there and we're behind the scenes, and we're walking up, in the Vatican area and going up the steps. And here's these places where kings and queens and diplomats and history has been made in this area, and walking up the steps, and there's all this marble, and you feel like you're really going into a really unique place. And we got into the room, and there was only about 70 of us that was brought into this room, and they sat us down, and I was 3 rows behind, in the audience, and then Pope Francis comes in. And I was like, I was pinching myself. I was like, is this really happening? Is this happening to me? And, he was such a, there's something about this Pope that is so extraordinary. I found him to be very gentle and kind. It seemed like, I had compassion for him because he had like the weight of the world on his shoulders. And then he would perk up and he would smile, and, listening to him talk, there was this gentleness and softness that he had. And, for any preconceived notions about, popes in the past, this Pope is really, really exceptional. And then when we had the opportunity to walk up, and I was, I thought this is like Forrest Gump here, I'm just walking in, and, and here I am, and I'm like, this is really happening. And when I went to actually shake hands with him, there was this moment that we have, and you could see it in this picture right here, where it was actually really friendly and cordial, and we had this, I was like 45 seconds, 50 seconds with the Pope, and we laughed, and I had an interpreter because we were speaking in Italian, and I couldn't, obviously I'm not as good at speaking Italian as I'd like to be. And he shared what I was doing in the service, in the military, and the mission that I'm working on. And he just he put his hand on my face and on my arm, and I told him, in my Catholic name, I have it's Francis. It's also the Francis of Assisi. That's what I was confirmed in. And he says, "Oh, that's wonderful, Charlie." And I said, "You know what? We've got to go away from war. We've got to go away from war. And like St. Francis, we've got to be about love and peace." And he just said, "That's right, Charlie." And so we just had this incredible, incredible moment.
That's
And
awesome.
it was something I'll never, ever, ever forget.
Well, he's a Jesuit, and I believe they're so highly educated that they are truly able to cut through some of the superstition and frankly, the BS of the rules and regulations
Mhm.
and put forth really the work of Jesus. I mean,
Yeah.
the Pope is a great guy. He's a
Oh,
great guy.
he's a terrific man. I mean, and I think this Pope is really about trying to bring the church back to the principles that Jesus was about. Jesus didn't reject anybody. He loved everybody. And, even on this trip, I went to places where there was churches that actually had the manger that Jesus was housed in. And then there was another church that had the table of the Last Supper. I had no idea this stuff existed. It was incredible.
Did you see the fingers of the saints and stuff, the relics?
No, I didn't see
Because
that.
in like Portugal and Spain and
Yeah.
places like that, it's a little bloodier version of that. And you'll go in, like, have the head of Saint Catherine is at, like in Portugal.
Yeah.
And you walk in and it's like, whoa.
It's incredible.
Yeah, it's like, okay, that's weird. But yeah, they have relics. They call them relics, and they did the splinters of the cross the same way. They broke up the cross and sent it to various churches, and so there are pieces of the cross displayed in the host, in the crucifix that holds the host in many of the churches as well. But the Spanish churches tend to be a little more macabre, and they have body parts.
Now,
It's like,
Charlie,
okay.
the type of women that are out there, we're going to incorporate this. We're going to incorporate this with what your travels, and then we're going to get into some really deep stuff. Why don't we pull this way a little bit?
Yeah, we gotta get
Sylvia got
Sylvia.
here. Get her in here.
We'd like to
Yes,
welcome
honey.
Sylvia to
I won't-
Zurich.
I won't sit
Canciones
next-
do Domingo.
I won't sit next to Sylvia because she'll make me look old, short, and fat.
Oh, no, not at all. Thank you for having me.
So we have the All-Star cast here. Everybody who's just joining in,
Yay.
KUHSdenver.com with the All-Star cast, talking about Me Too. And we're going to continue on with a little bit of Charlie's travels to meet the Pope. To meet the Pope. Come on, did you get that?
So
to meet the
jealous.
Pope.
That's
Charlie, let's continue. What's the women like out there?
Well, in Italy, they're really strong about faith. They're really strong about family. They're very noble and dignified, and they love men. That was something that I was very much impressed by. There was they understood the roles that men and women play. And so that's part of it, and that's a lot of those ancient cultures, they still hold on to them. But at the same time, they're very traditional in the sense that if, like in Lebanon, you've got to be able to, you meet the family, you got to meet the parents, you
Yes.
got to be able to do those things. If you're going to treat a girl right, you got to be able to respect them in that way, and they still hold on to that. But they're very sensitive and endearing. The Lebanese women were extraordinarily, in particular, this one, she was very extraordinarily kind.
Extraordinary.
He's blushing.
Was she like this, Charlie? With arthritis in her hands?
No, you can't go from the Pope. Henry, you cannot go from the conversation about the Pope to
Oh.
you doing that.
Oh.
Okay, you're just like, that is just not right.
That's inappropriate.
It's not working.
And,
We're feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, it's all
We're
coming.
feeling uncomfortable.
Yeah, I'm in between them. It's very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Extra uncomfortable.
Well, and when I went to Lebanon, I didn't. I expected something completely different. We have in our mind that there's it's the Middle East. There's a lot of terror. There's a lot of bombs going off. At any moment, things could escalate and blow up. And when I flew into the airport, I was like, on edge and tension because
Yeah.
last thing I knew was about the 83 bombing of the Marine barracks there, and so I still was kind of caught into that mentality. And I found the country to be completely the opposite of
Well,
it.
Lebanon was a Christian nation for years until all of the uprising. In fact, it was considered the jewel of the Middle East in terms of its buildings and the way that its advancement. And it was predominantly a Christian nation. And then it was a little different Christian, not the Catholic, but the Byzantine type. And that all changed, of course, as civil war and things ate away at it, and the borders between Syria and Lebanon go back and forth and back and forth. But they are beautiful people. The women and men there are just
Now, what are the
Oh,
things that we
gorgeous.
talked about the tallit? What is the covers that they wear on some of the women
I
out
think
there
it's a
that
hijab.
It's a
Hajib.
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 Yeah, I think it's a
the
Hajib. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's because you have the mix of religious cultures there. You have different customs. You have different traditions, and sometimes if you're a woman who's got the hijab on, you're not supposed to look at her. You're not supposed to be
I'm trying to figure out what's
what's
underneath
that.
I think that'd be great.
mad.
You could
Especially
be.
for a husband. It'd be a great way to fool a husband, wouldn't it? Just have good looking eyes or set.
Yeah,
Wedding night, they
It's
take
just
that thing off.
Oh my God.
Those eyes.
It does provide a little air of mystery, though. It's like,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
I
Yeah.
think the men should have to wear something like that.
So if you're just joining us now, we're going to discuss a lot of stuff that you're seeing right behind us, and that's sexual harassment. And Charlie got to tell you about his traveling out there to the, Rome, to the Vatican and to Lebanon and going down and showing us what it's like to really be thankful for. And that was so cool that you sent that to us. And I wanted to share that with you in the beginning of this show before we really get it heated up, man, because we are ready to take you on a journey here. So buckle up for safety. Make sure to have your chastity belts on. No, excuse me. Make sure and just
Chastity belt. That's another male oppressive thing. Do not even go into that.
No, it was for a male. not a
Okay,
female.
that's good,
It's for
yeah.
a male.
Put it
not a
on,
female.
lock it up, Henry.
That's right. Lock it up. Lock it up.
As we get started with
Some
this,
people would not even respect that, They wouldn't even respect that, so, yeah.
so if you take a look at what's been going on with all the different things within let's start with the office.
In the office?
In the office, come on.
What type of office, though?
Okay, so we're going to talk about the type of office.
Yeah.
How
Well-
about you get started, Rhonda? You're
Well,
razor sharp.
Hey, I don't know about that, but well, the office is always a kind of a funny place because of the hierarchy. It becomes its own world and it becomes its own kingdom. And we all know, if the history of kings, when we look at them, that the kings, it's good to be the king. Remember that old thing? They're
Yeah.
out there messing with all the women and drinking all the beer and
And
beheading.
she keeps looking.
I know she keeps looking at you, Henry. I don't know.
Drink
Why
all
is she looking at you?
I know.
Yeah.
Drinking
And
all the beer.
it's good to be the king. And so there actually is a syndrome, and my friend Lauren Miller, who's like a wonderful multi-degree person that deals with stress management and psychology, was sharing with me that there's a syndrome known as corner office syndrome. And the more successful a man gets and he gets put into these roles of power, that their testosterone levels actually rise. And it stems from the old days of caveman days where the strongest male mated with the more women. And it's that way in the animal kingdom. After all, we are animals. That the strongest gorilla is the only one that mates with all the female gorillas. The strongest lion is the only one that mates with the lions to ensure the strength of their pride and their community. So it kind of stems from that. So there is some physiological things that happen as people get power, but we also have a soul. We're not just people that have.
Now, Charlie,
physical
are
bodies.
you believing what she's saying?
To finish that
I
real
mean,
quickly,
go
we
ahead.
know the difference between right and wrong. And so
Yes.
we should be able to handle that, or men should be able to handle that as they get up there in the ladder.
Well, I
Now,
think
let's have some dialogue.
Well,
She's
that's
like,
what she-
that's from a female.
that is
point of view, right?
totally from the actually, there's no question that is, been consistent with history and the patterns. You look in the animal kingdoms, you look at the lion prides, you look at that's what happens, and you see it in nature. And so often, humankind tried to develop it, be consistent with what animal behavior was. And so, that I think that syndrome does happen but we do have a soul. And, we are coming into a time now where, come on, I mean, we have to be able to reevaluate how we're going to be in this new society, because we need to honor and respect and value women. No question. The things that people have been doing, you see the horrible things that, what happened in Hollywood with Weinstein and the things that people have been doing. And it's, they have abused their power and used that power in order to get what they wanted. We've got to be able to reestablish patterns that enable people to, we've got to talk. Guys got to be able to talk to a woman.
Yeah.
All right. I mean,
Now,
how are we going to be
Sylvia's
able to do that?
eyeballs. Sylvia, what's your take on this? I mean,
Yeah.
come on, help me here.
Well, I just think, I'm like in both, sides of women and men. They're always I think now it's like a competition. Who's like better than what, So the women are doing the same thing as the guys. They're have like higher power, and they think that they can have more power. Like harassing guys as well. I mean, I know it goes both ways.
Yeah.
It
It's not
does.
just
It
one.
does.
Oh,
It
yeah.
does.
She helped me out on
There
that
you
one.
go.
There we go.
Henry goes both ways.
Razor sharp.
I can see that.
Oh, they got you.
Yeah, she's right.
But I do think that happens a lot.
Yeah.
And I also think that because they're women, actually, it's a little bit worse because they have people are more like on their side. It's like, no, that wasn't true. I was not harassing this person. They were coming up to me because I'm the boss. Now they want to get me in trouble.
Mhm.
So they get away with a lot of stuff more than the guy, I think.
Now, do you think females utilize having low-cut blouses showing cleavage and, short skirts and all that kind of thing to empower themselves in the...
I have a turtleneck on. Notice that. For this discussion, I have on a turtleneck. No cleavage today.
to
baby.
empower themselves? What if men walked around with, stuff kind of showing there down there? I mean, what? I don't get it.
Yeah, they had a butt out.
Yeah,
Have
their
you seen
butt.
them?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, have their butt out there.
Yeah,
I
I
like
don't know.
that.
I
See, that's
don't know. Shaps.
walking
So
around.
let's talk about women only. But see, like, who are the designers that make these clothes for women?
Yes,
Guys.
serious.
Yeah, and that's true because men make so many decisions for women
Yeah.
that in fact most of the decisions for us are made by men.
Okay, you
Yeah.
say that,
Yes.
but where does this idea come from? Behind every good man is a good woman. She's making the decision. You go home and bam, bam, bam. Agarra, mama. No, mama. That means don't hit
I know
me.
what it means.
Yeah, come on,
Well,
come on, filter that out.
but really, historically, men have made the decisions for women. We still have it when you look at our Congress or our Senate. What do you see?
Oh
You
no,
see,
no, stay out of there.
You say a
No,
group of men, mostly white
Right.
men, making decisions about what? Women's health issues, birth control.
Yes.
They decide about our body. We could be able to
Yeah.
decide about our own bodies.
That's right. Very good.
And
And let's say, I mean, he just came from meeting the Pope. How many girls do you see there?
There was none. There was
that-
no. It was really. It was. It was
There
all,
it is.
it
So
was-
even
it
for
was all men.
religion, reasons, like they made that decisions for us. So
And for years, and I do think the lines have gotten blurred, and I think, there's also another sociologists have done many, many studies about men and women, and as women rise in making more money, for example, than men, in a relationship, in a personal relationship, what the instances of the male stopping to help the female, and the instances of the male starting to treat them more objectified and more as chattel versus as a partner, equal partner changes.
Yes.
Does that?
And so the dynamics change, and men treat you differently, and as a society, and also because it's a fragile ego. So, well, you may make more money than me, but I'm still the boss here and in the bedroom.
That doesn't.
Yeah.
No, no.
Taylor
Swift. No, Taylor Swift. I mean, how could she be out there making songs with Baby Get in the Bed, but and all that good shit, and then be on Time magazine? Somebody pinched her butt.
Well, let me tell you something.
And
I
then
can
she
say
paid
all day
$1.
long,
She got
baby.
$1 for her butt.
I
Should she
can
have
say-
gotten like $1 million bucks?
Let me tell you something. There's a difference. Yeah,
Jesus.
$1 million ass. I don't know. But there's a difference between when you want something and when you don't.
Mhm.
And we have such a dual role in society
Mhm.
that a man can say, "Gee, I like some of that," and if a woman says it, it's a whole different ballgame. And so,
You sure?
and so I really,
Prove that. That's just
You know,
hearsay.
so I really think that the difference is this.
Help me.
I'm trying. I'm trying
She's
to.
on fire.
She is on fire, but I'm waiting. I'm
I
waiting.
think I can say anything I want, and I think I can talk about sex all I want to, and I think I can tell people I want sex if I want it.
Right.
I like it.
No,
Yes.
yes.
Yeah.
You know what? And-
I don't want it, Henry.
You're right.
But that's the difference. If you say you don't, you don't.
Yeah.
And so, but on the other side of that coin
Yeah.
is men don't really know. They get mixed signals. So if a man approaches you and you say no, and they accept no, then that is to me not harassment, and that is not an assault. That is setting a line.
yes.
And if they continue or corner you or touch you or after you've said no, then that's a whole different ballgame. If the power structure
Right.
Yes.
is so different
Right.
that you
Yes.
are afraid to say no because of one reason or another, or the age difference, like good
Right.
old Judge Roy Moore, the pedophile. It's like, I don't care if it's legal. I don't care if the parents signed a statement saying, hey, guess what? You can boink my daughter anytime you want. The fact that he does the boinking on a 14-year-old is like, forget it. right?
Yeah,
It's
Okay, now
bad.
let's dial it way, way back. Okay,
way back.
way back. Before this complex society and all these complex laws, how was it?
Well, you
You're
know,
asking who?
Women were abused continuously. My mother was a working mother, and I can't tell you the number of times that she came home and left a job because the job expected her to perform sexual acts in order to keep her employment.
See, that's
Yeah.
how it was back in the
And they
day.
didn't get in trouble. You just got fired if you didn't do it.
mhm.
Well, that's still going on. That's
Yeah.
not like back in the day. That's something that is still
Still
happening.
going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Sylvia, now listen to this. This is some good stuff here. Sylvia, tell everybody, what you do, what you're about, your
Yeah.
show, and as modeling, let's go there.
Well, I'm sure you've done this.
Okay, well, I have my show here in KUHS Denver Radio TV station, Canciones de Domingo, and that's every Sunday from 9:30 to 1 p.m. And we play Spanglish music and most of it Spanish, Tex-Mex and Tejano music and grupera and all of all of them. But so I also act and I model. Right now, model has been on hold for a little bit because we had too much fun with food lately. But but anyways, yes. I also have my career. I'm a network engineer and working at in a corporate office. I went through the sexual harassment, and even then, my modeling career was before my my other career. I never told anybody where I work with that I used to model or whatever, but sexual harassment was there, even though they had no idea. My field is most of it like men, so I was there, and there's like 20 guys around me, or hundreds of guys around me, and there was always something. It was like, and I noticed like the more power they had, they thought that, okay, I'm just gonna be more straightforward and get the yes or get the okay, let's go. Unfortunately, like I'm not materialistic at all. I don't really care about people's position or people's anything like that. If you have an ego, that's it for me. I don't appreciate your friendship. I'm not gonna respect you. So when I think that people, because they have the power, they have the money, they have the looks, that makes them think that they have the rights with you, that's something that I'm just like, okay, that's not good. And I don't go like straight to them and said, what, just don't talk to me ever again. I go around it. I learned how to play the game of let's take it as a joke and move on.
That's important.
I don't go to Facebook and said, stop inboxing me, blah, 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 blah. Or, like, oh my God, I got like 20 photos today. Or, if I start saying that, like every other girl out there, that's getting more attention to that, and I don't like to focus the attention on negative stuff. So I never go and say, I was like, stalked today like 3 times, or I got, this guy chasing me, things like that. I'm always, just kind of like, if you ask me, I will tell you, but
I think taking it as a joke is a really good. That's the way I usually would handle things. They'd say something, and I just take it as a joke or say something back.
Now,
and that just gets rid of the tension, and you can continue to be a friend with that person typically, unless they're really bad.
Yeah,
let's insert this.
And
What
just
if
move on.
a chick pinches your butt, and then she says, "Oh,
just
you
pinch
like
your
it?"
back.
Just pinch your back.
Just pinch your back.
Well, did you like it or not?
See?
Yeah.
Charlie, how do you feel about this? Women, are they cruel out there? Are they just
I think that's weird. I wouldn't reach over and just pinch
Well,
your
what I
guy's
think-
butt.
Would you pinch them back?
Well,
Would you
if it
pinch
was,
your
if
butt
it,
back?
well, I mean, if it's,
Yeah,
it's,
look
if
at it
it's
dance
wanted,
around
if it's,
that one.
no. I'm trying to be
I'm
able
waiting.
to phrase it in a way that
You want
if it
make it
is
uncomfortable
reciprocated, and if it is, I think that a lot of times with men, it's, we don't, unfortunately, we don't read the signals correctly. We just don't understand. We're confused.
Yeah, we
don't know.
smile, and that's
we
like
smile
flirting,
and we think that's
it's not like
flirting.
being
You walk in the
polite.
room, that's like saying, I want you to.
Right.
Yes, exactly.
And so
I better
because
watch myself.
we had, in a lot of ancient cultures, prior to about 5,000 years, there was a lot of goddess cultures. There was a respect for the reverence of the
Let's
woman.
bring
There
that
was like
back.
this.
Let's bring back a guy.
And there was a sense of, reverence for the divine feminine. There was a reverence for that kind of thing. At the same time, there was a suppression of the male, which caused the rise of the male to come in, and then these male patriarchal societies came in and wiped out those matriarchal societies, and so all of a sudden now they suppress the feminine. So now we're trying to find this balance again, so that we can look at each other as equals and respect each other and honor each other. But what we don't have is we don't have a lot of men who are standing up and saying, all right, this is the right way to treat women, and showing young people, young men, how to be able to treat them and how to understand. And when a woman says no, and giving her, she's the one who's going to, if she gets pregnant, she's the one who's carrying the child. It isn't the guy. Okay?
Yeah, exactly.
She's the one who's going to bring, and so, we as men have to, respect and show reverence. And those stories of the chase and the maiden running and all those are beautiful mythological stories that you hear
And
about.
back then, they had to be fat.
They had to be voluptuous.
Voluptuous. No, really.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true.
that's true.
That was
That's
what
what I
it
mean. Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
And then you would chase and so and so. But there was still a sense of reverence for the other person, even though you were doing those chases. And they do have stories in those mythological stories where if the male aggressor, was violating the sanctity of the woman, they were punished for it. The
It's
gods
true.
punished them for it.
Yeah,
They
that's
were
true.
turned into animals or satyrs or all these things.
They
that
hang too and stuff like that. Yeah,
so
that's true.
they actually taught through those stories, those mythological stories, what happens if you violate that natural order of things, that process. And when that chase that I'm talking about can be a beautiful thing when it's invited by the feminine, when it's invited by the female. Then it's exciting, then it's fun, then it's playful, but if you're using your power in order to control somebody, then I gotta say,
That is not-
Yo,
and
what do
we've
you
got
think
people
about-
high in power who are
Now, let's talk
really
about
using that.
Matt Lauer.
Oh,
What do you think of Matt
None of us
Lauer?
want to talk about Matt Lauer.
Do you think he's good looking? I mean,
No, he's not good looking. He's a little prick, and he has one. That's what I think about Matt Lauer. How's that in a nutshell?
I like that.
We
Hard
get
to
to find out these people that you're kind of like, oh my God, how did they get away with it for so long?
Yeah.
Power, money,
Yeah.
power. And I heard that he had a little button underneath his desk to lock women in there.
Well, you know what? I will tell you
When you
that
went
I
to
worked
this.
at TV stations and radio stations, and one of the TV stations I worked at, the manager had a button that would shut the door and lock it, and it was not ever used in an inappropriate way. It was like you'd be sitting there, and then all of a sudden you bring up a conversation about so and so's overnight ratings. Maybe this person's looking a little old on the air. Maybe whatever. Maybe it's time to change that, and they want to shut the door and just shut it so that people couldn't hear the
okay.
conversation about what the research had indicated about somebody's haircut.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah,
something
or
stupid
like he
that.
was talking about
Yeah.
the voluptuous women. What if you get caught by a big voluptuous woman and she lays on top of you, can't get loose?
Well, if you don't want it, it's the same thing.
Yeah. I just remember
Henry,
those,
you're just,
Henry,
Henry's
you
bringing
sent
his
me-
fantasies
Henry-
out. This is not fantasy
Yeah.
forum, Henry.
Yeah, I'm talking about sexual harassment. But I think going back to that, like pinching the
Lightning
butt
fast.
and stuff like
Lightning fast.
that, I think it depends on the industry that you work with. Like on
Yeah.
like my industry, like modeling, you see everybody naked.
Yeah.
You see everybody touching everybody's stuff.
Mm.
And it's like, oh wow, like look at your butt, and they just go back and forth.
Yeah.
And it is very crazy. Like when I started modeling, you had to watch out. Like the guys will look at you. It was kind of like more reserved. And now because like I don't know, like 80% of my model friends, they're gay. So now you have to look out for the girls, not looking at you.
There is that. I mean, I think that it's not just sexual harassment with men and women. There can be women and men. There can be women and women. There can be men on men. And any combination thereof, I guess. But because it's just any person, in my opinion, of power that is trying to push an unwanted advance on you is sexual harassment. If they touch you, it becomes sexual abuse. I mean, that
That's
would
it.
be in a nutshell. And also that includes the disparaging between age, like someone who's dramatically older.
So when you
Someone
say
who's
they're
older.
older, they don't even care. Go ahead.
I think it depends. Maybe if it's a younger person, if the age difference this way, it's a younger person coming after the older person. Maybe they want that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead and grope me.
Okay, young guys.
Groping me. Thank you.
I'll give you 30 seconds to stop that.
30 seconds.
Don't stop.
No,
Wait,
You mean
stop.
30
Oh,
minutes?
30 minutes. Yeah.
But I think you're right, but there's so many things that you can consider sexual harassment. Like there's a lot of people that say, oh, that guy keeps looking at me. I feel uncomfortable. It's like, okay, but he hasn't come and say anything.
Well,
He has
you
not.
found out he was blind?
Yeah, he was had a lazy eye. He wasn't really looking
Have you
at
seen
her.
that when people who have two different eyes, they look two
They're
different
going
ways?
inside like this.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
like,
What are you looking at?
where are you?
Well,
I'm
not
trying to
you.
look at
No, because you know what? I do have a lazy eye. So I was sent so many times to the eye doctor in Mexico when I was in my classes because they had separated on this Catholic school, the girls and the boys. And my eye would look at the boys' side. So they're like, Sylvia, I was like, you're not supposed to look. I was like, I'm not, it's my eye,
Oh, sure.
But I wasn't really,
Oh,
it
I
was
remember
really
that.
crazy. So, that's why, like, I make jokes about lazy eyes because I know how it is. Like, people
Yeah.
is like, are you looking at me? I was like, yes, I'm looking at you. It's like, but your eye is pointing that way. I was like, because he's tired and he's lazy. So, it's that way,
Oh, God. But, I do think that it truly is, also if someone's impaired. I mean,
Yeah.
if someone is drunk. But I
Yeah.
always wondered if two people are drunk, the man's drunk and the woman's drunk, why is it the man's fault if something happens?
Like what?
Because you're both drunk. Well, let's say that.
Wreck the car or something?
Well, no, yeah, wreck the car.
You were going down the street.
I was referring to sitting on the stick shift. But,
Didn't I tell you?
But,
You did. I was in on it. Come on, there's two of us.
I'm trying. Man.
She's fast.
I mean, like if the man deliberately gets the woman drunk, and then something happens, obviously that's a rape, really.
Right.
That's what that
It
is.
Yep.
But if the man is drunk and the woman's drunk, and either one of them can make a good decision, what happens? I mean, does the man still get in trouble? I think he does, and
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's right.
No.
To be honest with you, I think if they're both in the same state, and doing stupid things, it's two people doing a
Why is
stupid
this
Yeah,
stupid
there's
thing?
both.
Because you're drunk, you're having a fun
No,
time.
but
You're having a good
you know,
time, right?
like
You're having a good time. It's got my liquid courage on.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, that's what they call it,
That's
liquid sex,
courage.
right?
Yeah, liquid sex.
Yeah.
Liquid courage,
Well,
right?
that's, unfortunately.
Come on,
It's
you know all
stupid. It's
about that.
stupid
Tell
if
us
you
about
wouldn't-
your little.
I'm going to
Give
tell
us
you.
some of your
Oh, yeah, I'll tell
stories.
you,
Tell
I'll
us
tell
your
you.
stories.
Oh, no.
Come on, you gotta
Oh, no.
Come on, Ryan.
I got a husband who might be listening. But what I was going to say is that if you've got two people and they're in that condition, then I don't know how you can assess which one.
There was a guy or
Or the girl,
And I tell you, come on.
And the reason I say it's stupid is if you wouldn't have done it sober, but you would do it drunk, then it was a stupid decision.
Right.
Decisions you make should be made that you would have made. So if you want to go to a bar, you see somebody and you say, hey, I'm going to take that person home, or that's what you're going to do, or whatever the case might be, however you meet your people online. I prefer to meet my axe murderers the old-fashioned way, in a bar, instead of online.
When
But,
you're like jogging and
yeah.
stuff.
But I mean, that's why I was like, what's the big deal? I was like, oh, online dating, it's so scary. I'm like, well, what do you want? Meet your rapist, in a bar? 'Cause you don't know anything more about these people in a bar the first time you meet them than you
than
would
when
on the
you do online.
internet.
Yeah, exactly.
But what I was going to say is that if you've got two people and they're consenting and you're sober, then that's fine. But if they're doing it when they're drunk, then it's not really, that's a dumb move. So if it's something you would have done sober, then great. Then it's not a stupid move drunk either. But if it's something you wouldn't have done sober, then it's a dumb move.
I was in a bar one time.
That's right.
I used to have long hair, and I was in the bar one time.
Oh,
And a guy walked up behind me and asked me to dance. That hair came off the next day. I was about to
But
go
your
home
hair is
with him.
beautiful. That's why.
He
Latin
liked
men
me.
have the best
No, he's
hair.
looking at my butt.
Latin men are very attractive, and I think they're very sexy, and they have
I'm
wonderful
feeling
hair.
uncomfortable.
I know. There you go.
Well,
You look very long. You look really,
They are very sexy.
Yeah, but we
Well,
have,
Henry, you look really comfortable. But you know,
You look really
sexual
comfortable.
harassment can happen both ways. You know,
Yeah, it
there's
can.
times where it's.
Yes, let's
They,
get after
no, I
this.
mean, it's,
No, let's jump on it.
happens.
Let's give him a
Get over there.
chance.
Yeah.
Let's give him a
Yeah, give
Yeah.
a chance, you know, and you know, and I have the deepest reverence and respect for all women, and you know,
You better throw that in there.
I do. I
Because
absolutely.
they're waiting right out
They're waiting outside. They're going to punch me. However, it has happened the other way to me. I've worked in, you know, in West Hollywood and Los Angeles, and there was, you know, gay men there who would hit on me, and it wouldn't be, and I'd be like, listen, I'm done better. You're right. I appreciate it. Thank you very much. You know, I'm flattered
It's a
by my
compliment.
It's a
Thank you.
compliment, and then you know you try to move, and sometimes they wouldn't take the hint, you know, and they would, you know, touch you and put their arm around you and doing these things, and I'd be like, all right, listen, that's not who I am. So it can happen both ways.
Absolutely.
It really, and so it's.
But do you mind it? Like if a chick hits on you and she's really pushy and she's voluptuous and nice and cute?
Well, you're putting me on the spot.
Yeah.
Well, so that means he really cares about the appearance then. Because he hasn't said she's like really good person.
Listen, you know, when I was younger and
Well, you're not very old. I mean,
I'm
Jesus.
He's a baby.
Yeah.
you know,
Hasn't even got all his hair yet.
That's right. I'm still waiting for my hair to grow back. You know, I just lost my baby hair.
I told you.
See, it's still like the peach fuzz, you know.
I
They
warned
said
you,
God only made so many perfect heads, and on the rest he put hair.
That's right.
That's a good one.
Ooh, I think
That's a
I'm
good one.
that's
I
a
never heard
good
that one,
one.
yes.
I'm gonna take that.
Yeah.
When I was a younger man, you know, I was not comfortable in my skin. I was didn't know how to talk to a girl. I liked girls, and I was very shy, and I was just, you know, I'd see it, I'd get all nervous, and so I didn't know how to talk to a
That was
girl
me
and stuff.
too.
And so, and I think a lot of, yeah, so I think a lot of times, you know, young men don't understand how to. They don't understand the rituals that are part of courting. You know, that's a lost art.
Courting,
Is courting.
And
you know?
dating is a lost art.
Dating
People
is a
actually
total
date
art.
lots of different people.
Yeah.
And because I asked my daughter, well, how come we don't have lots of different people? Well, they'll think I'm a slut. I said, what do you mean?
Yeah.
And then I was like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? And it's because so many people assume that they're having sex when they're on a date.
Yeah.
They say,
Yeah.
no, we don't want to date lots of people. Just date one person that we like, and you know, and not that they were having that. I don't know. They might have been, might not have been.
So I was a slut.
But
I was a slut.
yeah.
So you found out something about
Where the
me.
culture used to be, you date lots of people, and then you might find a boy that you liked more and go steady with that boy, and you know,
Steady.
yeah. Remember that going steady?
That meant getting some.
No.
Yeah.
But you know, there used to be a culture of that.
Yes.
You don't see that anymore. You're
No.
right. Courting is a lost art. It really is.
No.
You know, it's just.
And no.
Well, what about young men? I mean, I know
I
this isn't. a
have three
place.
sons, and all of them have it down.
They're good. They're good. I met your one son. I don't know. Your wife must have done a pretty good job, because I'm not giving you any credit on that kid. He's a nice kid.
Pobrecito, huh? Poor thing.
Pobrecito. Anyway, what I was going to say is that, you know, look at young boys. How do young boys get the signals today of what's good and what they can and can't do without getting in
Right.
trouble?
Why?
Because you know, it used to be. I mean, maybe it's just me. I don't know, but you know, I bet Sylvia asked if this happened to you. You'd go on a date and something, and you might start kissing a little bit, and the guy might try to touch your breast or something, right? He'd start to move in on you, and you either go no, or you might say yeah, but you know,
I'm coming back as a chick in my next life, and I'm going to be a hoe.
You're going to be a good.
I'm gonna be a hoe.
You would make it clear that you were not interested in that. You'd move their hand, and then they didn't get in trouble for assault, and they didn't, you know, all that other stuff. Well, today, you know, you have to wonder if you have a son and he makes what I would consider to be a normal advance on a child, on each other. They're both the same age. I mean, they're all, you know, they're at that age and they're going through puberty and they're 15 or 16 or whatever. Is going to make a normal advance, and if the girl says no and he stops, he still can get in trouble for making that advance.
Yeah.
And that could be on his record as a 15 or 16-year-old for the rest of
Back
his
to what I
life.
said.
And that's not right.
And that's not right.
That is not
Complex
right.
laws
Sorry.
for a complex society. I told you that.
That's just not right.
It's this culture.
No,
that we live in.
we have to be able to be, you know, still men and still women. We have to be able to find ways that enable us to be able to have romantic relationships.
And Charlie,
And
you're an old
relationships.
classic. You love romance. You
I
love
do.
courting, you like the flowers and presents, but most of all, a diamond ring.
Oh, really? Somebody's like,
Yeah, see, it's like, you know.
but, so, and so how do you draw that line anymore?
Yeah.
But see, I even had an issue when my niece was, I think it was first grade. There's this little kid that was passing, by the line, and somehow he just he was swinging the arms and touched somebody's butt, a little girl.
Yeah.
That was first grade, so that's what, like 6 years old.
6 years old.
They called the cops. They did a record on him,
6
and
years
they
old?
Oh
sent
my
them
God,
to
that's
Rehab.
yeah, kind of like rehab, like therapy and stuff like that. And I'm just like,
Are you serious? Give
Something-
me a
something's
break.
wrong with that.
Give me a
that is
break.
a little bit too
Yeah,
much,
that's way too much.
Yeah, and my son, when he was in preschool, they were playing cops and whatever, and he went like this, and he got in trouble because that was the
Dear
gun,
God.
and it's like little things like that I think, like, come
It's
on,
gone
like,
way over the
now
edge.
they cannot play, like nothing of that stuff that we
Yeah.
used to play when we were little because
Like-
everything is taken wrong.
I know
Like
it is.
Red Rover, Red
Red
Rover.
Rover, Red
We can't
Rover.
play that no more and go make out in the bushes.
No, it's spin the
No, you
bottle.
cannot.
It was spin the
Spin the
bottle.
bottle.
That's why spin the bottle.
Spin the bottle.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
back
do
there
you play that?
making out.
Yeah,
So
what do you do?
Okay,
Truth or dare?
okay, this went up to truth or dare. That was another.
Well, let's,
Yeah.
you guys want to play Truth or Dare? Let's do it.
No. Okay, who played spin the bottle? Have you played spin the bottle when you were
Yes,
little?
yes, I
Did you
did.
play spin the bottle?
I did.
Yeah, I
played
did.
spin the
Did
And who'd you, yeah, I made out with all the chicks in the neighborhood.
bottle.
He made sure he pointed to a different one
Yeah.
every single time. It had a magnetic side.
What was
Yeah.
the one, was it, where you go in the closet, like 2 minutes in heaven, or whatever that one was? 7 in heaven, or I don't remember that
I
one.
can't remember. What about you? You probably remember, Henry.
The one where you go in the closet, wasn't there one that was like,
And then you get out of the closet.
and then you come out
Then
of
I
the
came out of the closet. I went both ways.
I mean, people, that was part of growing up and part of learning about your sexuality. And so we
It
don't,
was.
we don't
What were you
wanna-
doing in the closet?
Yeah, but who knows?
That was
I didn't go in the
private.
closet.
If they wanted you to know, it would be.
Get on Intimate Talk on Sundays if you want to talk about that.
But the problem is that all these things, and sexuality gets mixed up, and then, and so I think men can get mixed signals. So I think
Yes.
it's very important as a woman to give good signals, to be able to when someone makes an advance or someone does something,
What are the
to let them
signals?
know. Well, no is a good one, right?
No, that's a word.
And
What are
yes
the
is too.
signals?
Yes,
moving
it's
away.
a
This would be another one.
Just change
Flip
the
them off.
subject,
I also think that,
Here's the signal, that's the signal.
but I also think just being straightforward and honest.
Straightforward, yeah.
Being straightforward and honest, if somebody is somebody is doing advances towards you that you don't want, you got to say thank you for the flattery, but this is.
That's what I was gonna
What
say,
is
thank
this?
you.
Thank you,
Thank
Charlie.
Flattery.
But,
But
okay.
I'm not interested. I think you're a great person. I think, and I want to keep this professional. I don't want this to go. So it doesn't escalate to that point. And then people, start. If you don't establish those boundaries at the
Right.
beginning,
Yeah, it's
then
hard to do it.
it's hard to get that. And I think that's one of the key things is that we have to be able to set those boundaries early when they happen, so we can stop it from going any further. And if it continues, then you've got
I
to
agree.
do something
I agree.
about it.
Now, Charlie, you also do classes for people who have broken up. right?
Yes, I do. I do. I
Now-
work with, yeah.
Do you ever run
Like leave each
into?
other alone.
Yes. Now, how do you do that? Sometimes they don't leave each other alone, and there's advances there.
Yeah.
How do you help them correct that?
Well, for people who are going through divorce or any kind of separation, there's a lot of disentanglement that has to happen. It's really about taking time to get back to yourself. I mean, you really have to be able to say, listen, I've got to be able to reconnect to who I am and what makes me happy, and allow myself the time and separation to be able to see where I did good in the relationship, see where I did bad in the relationship, see what they did, and be able to take responsibility for my part in it, see where I need to grow and where I need to learn, and to be able to, take those lessons and then move forward so that, you're not carrying those same patterns into the next relationship that you're doing. And, it helps people to really understand themselves in a way that you're not constantly blaming the other person for what happened. You remember, it takes two to tango. I mean, it just does. It takes two to tango to be able, when you're in a relationship. And if you found yourself in a situation that you didn't want to be in, or if you found yourself in a relationship that turned sour, you've got to be able to say, listen, I played a part in it, and that was my part. And so that's how we start doing it, and then we move into an area where you're reconnecting to who you are and what makes you happy, what brings you joy, and reconnecting to the things that are important to you.
And what about this, Charlie?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen two people get together in a work environment and they get together? She likes it, he likes it, and then they separate. Does that cause grief? Have you ever seen that?
Well, that can definitely, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, they
absolutely. It
Can
can
it take
cause
the
a lot
company
of,
down?
it can take the company down.
The rise and fall of the Roman Empire.
Well, you look at it from a military perspective. There's a lot of times you have military, and I know a lot of the women who have experienced military sexual assault because it's a male-dominated society. You have a lot of type A aggressive males. I mean, that's what it fosters. That's what it attracts. And so for a woman to fit into that culture, it can be very, they put a lot of demands on them to be, in that male-dominated culture. And sometimes they can cross the lines. And so, and because of that, a lot of women are, harassed and assaulted because of that. And it's not right. And it can destroy the culture. It can destroy the person. It can destroy, and,
cause physical conditions.
physical conditions. It can cause extraordinary PTSD and trauma, and it's really painful. And so, when a man and a woman date, let's say and then they break up, they're constantly seeing each other, and the work that they're doing it starts to fall away, and the mission starts going down as a consequence.
What do you think? I did like when you said thank you, because I always believe that when someone if they put themselves forward, and that one of the good ways is to, it is flattering. I mean, they obviously think you're attractive in some way, or they wouldn't be doing it.
Mhm.
So, I think it's okay to say thank you, but I'm not interested.
And what about
Or
this?
thank you, I'm already involved with someone else. Hey, I wish I were single, but I'm not. So
Let's touch on social
Right.
media.
Social media.
Social media. You could be a perfect one for this one, Sylvia. You put up there, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm doing this, saying all these things about yourself, posting your butt up in there, you're showing your breasts and everything, and then you get all these inboxes of duck pics.
Yeah.
I have to say duck pics. I have to go
Well, this is what I tell my friends. I can make a book with all sizes, all colors, shapes.
you have sent you that many of those pictures?
Yeah.
Well, that's
and-
because you're a model. I've seen some of those pictures.
Yeah,
They're
and
pretty
and
beautiful.
not just men, but women as well that I get, both and everything.
Oh my
But
God.
this is what I do, like you were saying, be straightforward and let them know. Sometimes some different depends where you work and what type of industry you work, you cannot be so direct because like my industry is so small. You're gonna see this person, you're gonna work with this person sometime again and again and again.
Mhm.
So you don't want the tension. So that's what I say, like I take it as a joke. It depends who the person is, of course, and I take it as a joke, and then when they keep insisting, it's like, look, I thank you so much. I feel, so flattered that you consider me, attractive or whatever, but I'm not gonna be doing this with you, this is a working relationship, and that's it, we move on. But most of the time it's just a joke, it's like, oh yeah, right, you tell that to everybody,
Well,
and just
I
move
think
on.
I think if you get any of those pics, male organ pics, that you should just respond by saying, I've received 3 today and yours is the smallest. I just wanted to let you know, so you might not want to send it out.
I did that like multiple times at the beginning, but there's so many of them, so like I can't respond to everybody,
Right.
So what I do, is
You
like,
might reconsider sending it
Yeah.
since yours was the smallest of the 300 I received.
what I do now is like, okay, if it's somebody that I've been talking to and they send me that, I'll be like, do not send that, like we're just friends. I mean, you don't want to miss this, like I still give him another chance, like correct yourself, and if they do that again, then you block without no other
Well,
warning.
this is a phenomenon that is, I think, in my age group, is not something that it just didn't happen. I mean, it's like, oh my God, like why would people send pictures of their privates to another person? That to me is harassment. number one. And who wants to, well, you know, I don't know. I mean, I don't really think you want to see them. We've seen one, you've seen them all. They don't look exactly different.
No.
You know, I mean,
They are very different.
I know.
You know, you can write a book on it, right?
Yeah,
You can make a book
sure.
outside of all shapes, all
But I mean, it's like, why? Why would you do this? It's so
You know,
So
this is the
mature.
reason why, because
I don't know how
they
to do
sent
it.
this photo to like 200 girls. Out of 200 girls, there's
Yeah.
gonna be at least one responding like,
Wow,
wow.
so it's like
You
a
know?
mass email.
Yeah.
It's like an
Yeah.
e-blast.
Yeah, I think
Let's
that's
explain
what
the
it is.
What about
statistics
us
of
poor men?
Well, I was going to bring up, but
Bring
hold
that
on a
up,
second.
Charlie.
I was
Just,
going to say,
you know,
that's true,
that's-
and I absolutely
What
agree
about-
with you. I mean, it's terrible that but doesn't sometimes when
don't
when
get it.
women, now let's look at it this way from a different perspective. If women are sending a lot of provocative photos out and they're trying to excite a sexual arousal from men, and they send those things, can they be, and then they're inviting that, right?
I don't know if
pulling
they're
that-
inviting a
And then they
naked
get up there.
picture.
I'm not saying naked picture,
We
but I'm
gotta see
saying
some
they're
of the
inviting.
pictures.
That type of comments and
That-
stuff like that.
right.
And this is the thing.
Where do we draw the line on that?
Yeah, I used to manage, like a lot of models and stuff. The first thing I would say, do not put photos like, showing your butt or like this type of photos like this,
Yeah.
especially if you want to get respect in that industry as first. Do not do any nude photos, photo shoots or imply nude, because then first thing you're going to get is photographers asking to do another nude photo shoot.
Mhm.
Right.
They're gonna see you as just as a sexual symbol. They're not gonna respect your work because they're like, she never has clothes on, and things like that. That's why like I try to do that. And once they don't care, then I'm not gonna waste my time, with that person anymore. I moved on because I know there's girls out there that have. It's not that they don't have principles, I'm really happy they feel so comfortable in their own skin and they like to do this, but at the same time is you're gonna get the attention of the wrong people. If you have established your reputation, you have established your reputation first, and then you do like an implied nude and stuff like that, then they already know you. They already know it's like, oh no, this person wasn't just looking for attention. Right now, everybody's so desperate for attention. I tell people, I mean, you wanna do a photo shoot with a naked girl? Just put it on Facebook. You'll get like 20.
Yeah.
I mean, you're
Charlie,
not gonna have a hard time finding
We're not going
it.
to be
It's amazing, too.
modeling nude no more.
I mean, and
We're
I-
starting modeling already. My new model
Thank
pictures
God.
are done,
You can find
Yes.
Charlie's nude model pictures on.
I'm telling your wife.
She's watching.
Yeah.
Hi, girl.
She's watching.
She's watching. I think that goes right into what responsibility do you have as a woman to command respect in your workplace?
Mm.
And how do you do that? And do you
With a
wanna-
gun?
Yeah, that's it. Do you want to be one of the
You don't
guys?
respect
You know,
me.
if you're going to be in an industry where there's a lot of men, when I first started in radio, there was a lot of men, then you had to be able to have a little bit of thick skin. You had to have some fun. You had
Yeah.
to be able to take a joke. You had to be able to give a joke back. You had to know when they were kidding and treating you like one of the guys
Exactly.
and when they were being lecherous. And there's a difference. And
I
you
love
can
that
tell.
word lecherous.
Lecherous.
It
Can
is
you
lecherous.
explain it?
Right there.
Thank you.
Right there. That's it.
I
But
told
yeah,
you, I know you did. I was
You
saying
have to
about
know that
electric
thick
shark.
skin,
It's like
and-
millisecond fast.
But, and so I think you have a responsibility also in how you respond to things, how you carry yourself. Because
Exactly.
men can tell when you're open for something.
Yes.
If
Really?
you're,
Can
or
you
when
lead
you're
me to
joking.
the
Or-
promised land?
Yeah.
Some, but there's some of them that they won't even get it.
Land of milk and honey. But,
Some people that
That's
just won't get it.
uncomfortable.
Doesn't matter
That's,
how you do
that's
it.
bad. Look, there's the Kim chicken.
That's uncomfortable.
But so I think you as a woman have to set those boundaries and
Yes.
you have to make them clear. And every woman is different because women have had different experiences. Some women come to the workplace and they have had a horrific experience when they're younger, perhaps of being abused or being
Yeah.
raped, or and you don't know that. And so if a man comes up to that woman and puts his hand on her shoulder, she's
They
going
can
to take.
trigger.
That's
Yeah.
gonna
They
that's
can
gonna
trigger
make her up. Whereas with me, if somebody comes to my shoulder, I'd be like, oh, thank God, my muscle hurts.
Yeah,
It wouldn't be
right.
that. It wouldn't be anything else. It wouldn't be anything.
Yeah.
It'd just be
Well-
so the rule of thumb is don't do it or ask.
Ask, yes.
Yeah,
Charlie.
like, can I?
I don't mean anything by this, but
Do we have a society that is too thin-skinned, though, in some regards?
Yes.
Yes.
There's cultures.
You know,
Yeah,
that-
the
there's-
millenniums. I just kidding.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like,
some cultures like to, like Italian cultures, they kiss on the
they
cheek.
kiss on the cheek. I mean, in Lebanese cultures, it's kisses
Very,
3
very
times on
hard.
the cheek. They're very,
Yeah.
they show affection,
They
putting
get
an
you,
arm
they take
around
your
you.
clothes off, they
Men do
take
the
you to
same
bed. It's over.
You know, but it is. Sometimes it can be a cultural thing. Like
Isn't all of
Italians.
this hours and hours of talk for an act that takes about, what, 45 seconds?
know.
Yeah, exactly.
Who are you going to?
I'm 45
Are you?
cents. I'm not going there.
Okay,
45
now she's
cents.
attacking the male culture.
That's it.
No, we're going to take control here. No.
I mean, all this talk about something that literally is less than a 5-minute act. I mean, it's like.
5 minutes?
I don't know.
Who are
That's
you
the-
eating?
I'm
Here I think 3 times 2 hours a piece.
Oh, yeah, right.
Freak.
Oh, you big liar.
Okay, so you come. So
Girl, can you call us a 720?
Yeah, we'll get, you have your wife call in, we'll find out about that. They don't call you the Minute Man for nothing. I'm
Oh,
sure they
no. He pulls out that credit card and we go to the store shopping.
No, but there's a lot of ways to open up the way that people can say things to you. You know, like I said, you know, there's, like I was telling Henry a lot of times, like sometimes I model a dress and then some other girl models the same dress and it doesn't even look like the same dress because
Yeah.
the poses are like, you know, more
Knowing how.
sexual. You know, it's like
Or
it's
just
not
your
really
body
like
is
what your clothes, you know, like what type of clothes you have on, is how you carry it, you know,
Right,
your
right.
personality. So if you're, you know, if you're naked and it's an implied nude and it looks beautiful, and then you're naked and you have this sexual pose, it's gonna look really bad. So that's when
Right.
you're gonna get all these nasty comments,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah, I agree.
Well,
Charlie.
and sex sells, though.
I know,
you
Charlie.
got to look at the marketing culture. You got to look at what we've been.
Yeah, but you
indoctrinated
have
with
to,
and
if you know
Yeah.
what you're doing, you need to be able to receive those comments and have thick skin and
That's
not be
right,
like,
I agree.
oh, you know, not
Gotta
because
have
I put in this photo, you're gonna comment this. It's like you put it out there. You know what type of people you're gonna get. Then
Absolutely.
That,
You know?
and that's taking responsibility
Yes.
for your life.
exactly.
You-
That's
if
what I'm
you
saying.
put
Don't,
yourself in there, and that's what you're going to.
I'm not saying don't do it, but if you do it, you know what type of comments you're gonna get. You're
Sure.
gonna know what type of people you're gonna start, you know, attracting to yourself. So just make sure that you're responsible for it. You take it, you own it, and deal with it.
And
Right.
I would say
And
for,
don't allow
for young
abuse.
women, what would
Yeah.
you say for young women entering the workplace? Young women entering, you know, the actual workforce, they're coming out of college, they're gonna get a job, and how they should handle themselves when it comes to this type of behavior. I
Mhm.
mean, what advice would you give them as
I
a
think
man?
the young women are really sharp.
Look at him, he's smiling, he's like, I wish
No, they are just on point. They
They
are very bright. They are
Yeah.
talented. I
Yeah.
think they know how to carry themselves, especially with all this stuff that's come out. I think they're
Don't be afraid. I would tell them not to be afraid
of
Yes.
what?
to speak up,
Oh,
you know,
Don't be afraid
and to
to
say
speak up.
no.
Yes.
That
To who?
to anybody that makes an advance to them that they don't want an advance of. You know, and if your
you're
boss
talking
comes,
sexual.
yes, well.
Oh, got
yeah,
by advance to just,
No, oh, no.
do you want to take the vice president position?
Oh, yeah, that's different. Yeah, that's
Oh.
available too.
That's when you can go to the
But-
couch.
Couch
Couch
couch.
yourself. But if,
Charlie, you went to the casting couch how many times?
but you know, I would say that don't be afraid to speak up because you can get another job.
That's right.
You can't recover what they'll take from you.
Exactly.
So you can get another job.
But you know, like I found lately, like most of the people now, they want everything easy. They don't want to work for it. So they want just like the attention the fastest they can get it. They want to go up on companies the fastest they can get to it. Whatever they have to do, they'll do it. I think integrity is pretty much,
Yes.
you know,
Mhm.
being like something like common sense is
Mhm.
rare, you know, and I think that's why we'll get Josh equally. You know, we are all easy, we're all, you know, empty head and everything, just because most of the people now, they don't know, they don't understand, you
Mhm.
know, all that stuff, and we are all included saying, well, I'm a model, oh, I know, you're stupid, you're, you know.
Well,
this, this,
women
and
are
that, you know.
objectified more now than they ever have been.
See, Charlie, I'm not sleeping with nobody to go to the
No,
top
like this.
anymore.
Well, you know, I mean, I think that I don't know. In ancient cultures, you know, like you look at the ancient Greek culture, you know, they looked at the feminine body as beautiful. I mean, it was just this whole, you know, the statues, and it was such
Yeah.
grace and beauty, and there was reverence to it. And I think society has suppressed women for so long, and that is the most underused undervalued, unappreciated resource that we have in the world that has not been utilized and has been kept down for a long time. No question about it. I believe that. And I think that that's actually coming online, and you're seeing as society is reorienting itself and recalibrating itself to this new rise, this new understanding. And as men, we can't lose being a man. We still got to be men. You don't want us to be soft. You don't want us to not be like men. You want us to be who we are.
Yeah.
And we've got to learn how to be able to,
I don't have a problem if you want to take care of yourself too, okay?
So we've got to be able to find that
You
balance.
can't be a sissy, is what he's saying.
You can't be a sissy.
Yeah,
You can't be a wimp.
Act like a man.
you've
Go
got
out
to
there,
be
work
able to-
24/7, bring
Both
in the
people
dough.
need to come from a place of integrity.
That's good.
You've got to know you've got to know who you are. You've got to come and be able to speak your truth in honest and vulnerable ways. You've got to honor the soul of the human being. You've got to show reverence and respect and humility and goodness. And you've got to know and not be ashamed, not be afraid to say, hey, I think you're a beautiful woman. I'd love to go out on a date with you. And if she says no, say that's okay. Not be hurt by it. Not think it's like,
It's not
oh my
personal.
God, it's not personal. And for the other side, not to say, oh my God, that's a sexual harassment thing that's going on right there. That is just that's the nature of our.
I
you know,
think we have to
stuff.
learn to draw the line, and we have to learn to
Yeah.
understand and give people some grace, because that's how human interaction works. No one would ever have anybody if every time anybody asked the question,
Yeah.
everyone turned them in or said they were harassing them.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's asking the question that's a problem. I don't think it's approaching a person that's a problem. I think it's a problem if it's done, like I said, with abuse of power,
Mhm.
under the influence of drugs or alcohol, or someone's unconscious, or they rape them, obviously.
Yes.
If they corner them and make you feel uncomfortable, or they touch you in ways you don't want to be touched, they don't take no for an answer. That's when it becomes
Absolutely.
something else. When
Mhm.
it comes in and they just say, I really, would love to go out to dinner with you, or that's not sexual harassment. That's asking you on a date.
That's right.
Okay,
Yeah.
Charlie,
That's
now,
right.
now that's what I wanted you to get on this.
Okay.
What about her talking about men who are cordial, you open yourself up to vulnerability, women who take advantage of a man being a
That can
man,
happen.
bringing flowers, presents, but most of all, the diamond ring.
Well,
There are
that
some
can
mean
happen.
women out there that will take advantage of everything.
Yes,
Yes, there
they
are.
will.
Yes,
They
They'll
will.
taunt you and then not give you nothing.
That's
You know?
right. They play that game. They'll tease you.
Yeah, they're always teasing you.
and-
There's a lot of them out there.
And then you have to go see the doctor because it's for 4 hours. And it's like,
you call them you can call them gold diggers. You can call them
nasty.
Do you know there was
nasty.
actually-
They can be very
Very mean.
There was
very
actually a guy
Very
who
abusive.
died of a Viagra overdose, and
Oh, wow.
it was really bad because they couldn't get the coffin shut.
His wife took it very hard, didn't she?
Yes, he took it very hard. I'm sorry.
I ruined you.
I don't know. I can't compete with that. I can't. I'm sorry. It's true.
The
But
sexual harassment deal is great.
But about those guys that they're open up and they keep giving gifts to the girl and stuff like that, they need to know at some point they're just
Yeah.
playing with them.
Stop
Yeah.
it. Don't
Yeah,
give him
yeah.
something.
The
See if
guy's
they still
playing with
like
them?
you. You know.
Well,
Well,
whenever,
it depends. If I have a boyfriend, whatever.
Yeah.
well, there can be, and this is a consequence of a lot of the suppression of women for so long, is that there's a militant side there that wants to destroy men, that wants to punish them, that
Mhm.
wants to do that.
That's what's
So-
going on big now that they
Yeah,
have this
have-
going on. There's
yeah.
some that are coming about like,
Well,
And I'm not saying, but and it's so it is. It's
You're
one
back.
of those key things.
Think
Is what
about it.
one of those things, the key things is that for men who are being manipulated in those situations, who are being emotionally abused in those situations, because it can happen.
absolutely.
Vulnerable-
vulnerability, and you don't even know.
Well, emotional abuse to a man is equivalent to physical abuse to a woman.
Yes, it is. Yes, it
Because
is.
our brains are not equipped in men, our corpus callosum in our brain is smaller than it is in a woman. A man can think and
Repeat
feel.
that again. Corpus.
Corpus callosum.
Get that. Write that
The
down.
corpus callosum, and so this is science.
Male brains are smaller than what. That's what I'm hearing. Yes.
Well, it's part of our evolution.
That's
Because
harassment.
We were hunters and gatherers, and we have to be able to see where the threats were and protect. And so
Yeah.
we're going out to hunt the animal, and so we couldn't feel. We had to think. We had to think sharp. We had to get. It was a matter of survival.
Yeah, so that's like physical abuse. So that's why I had it for a guy is like, having a baby for a woman,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, really, that's true.
Well, I don't know if it's bad. No, I'm
Yeah.
not saying that's
No, that's
that
great.
is
Men are wusses
that is
when it comes
wusses
to
when it
pain,
comes to
aren't
that.
they?
Yeah, I'm with you on
Like
that.
the
You're
biggest-
totally wussy when
I
it comes to
adore
that.
women
No, no.
because they can have children. That is
That
got to be
is-
the most difficult,
Yeah.
painful.
But
thing
now
you
they
gotta
have
do
all
in your
these
life.
drugs and stuff like that, but I did a natural. All it's natural. So, yeah.
I have.
But
done
she's
that.
mentioned the drugs.
Never do it again.
Go ahead and give it to me when I'm done having the baby.
Yeah. I didn't take the drugs during childbirth. I saved them. It took me
I
20
know.
years after.
That's what we need them.
Yeah, that's what we need them.
Yeah. But yeah, but I think, it goes both ways and, well, 4 ways, because then we talk about men, women,
Yeah.
I just think respect is like the main key for everything,
Agreed.
I don't mind. I have many, lesbian friends, and gay friends and stuff like that, and I love them. I mean, they're amazing. They never, the ones that they're still my friends, of course, they have never tried to,
They don't cross the line.
yeah, they don't cross the line. And
Because they're women and they know not to.
Yeah.
Now, let's go after
My,
this guy.
no, seriously. I mean, I've never had a lesbian friend that crossed the line. They just don't do that.
I had a couple.
What, were they friends or were they just people that came on to you?
They were friends.
Oh,
They
wow.
were friends. Yeah. So it was 2 of them were really scary. They were
that's
really,
scary.
really scary.
Let-
And even if they do, what's the difference between a woman doing that and a man doing that? All you have to do is
It's the
say
same
either
thing.
I'm
They say
interested,
women are better.
either you're interested, either you're interested or you're not. That's all you have to
Yeah,
tell them. Yep, let's
exactly.
go or no,
Women
let's
touch
not.
better.
I think that's the key.
That's
It's
it.
like I'm not interested. Thank you for the flattery.
Don't you
Thank
think
you for
women
that
touch
stuff.
better?
Well, yeah.
I'm
But I do. I mean,
it's
that's-
making me uncomfortable.
Now what about this
Like,
one?
who touched you that you didn't like?
Yeah, who
Which
touched
guy?
you?
Which guy?
Well, you're saying, don't you think the woman touched better?
Yeah, how would you have anything to compare with?
Yes, exactly. When was that?
What,
Yeah.
if a threesome is 3 people and a twosome is 2 people, then never call a man handsome. Never. A bad thing to do.
What about this? What about women who are real sexually driven and those who hardly have any sex drive and those in between? Men
That's
and
like
women.
a guy too.
Yes,
Guys
men
are
and
like that
women.
too.
That's not- But there's women out there that really have high sex drive.
Yeah.
What's wrong with that?
Yeah, what's wrong with
Nothing's
that?
wrong with that. When they approach a guy,
You're
they're
like, what's
always
wrong
on
with
him,
that?
always on him.
Explain
Come
that to
on,
me.
pinching him on his butt and really pressuring
No,
him.
but that
in front-
doesn't mean that I mean,
It still don't get abused.
yeah, exactly.
You think that causes more abuse?
No, I think
Where
it's
does it come
power.
from?
I think abuse comes from power. Absolute power corrupts.
Harassment
Absolutely.
comes from that?
Socrates, I believe, or Aristotle.
Aristotle,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
Yeah, but not because you have more sex drive, you're like gonna start doing
Viva la
that.
raza!
it's one of those. You're right. Absolute power corrupts. Absolutely.
Yes, it does.
It's a power trip. I mean, rape and sexual aggression are not crimes of sex. They're crimes of violence.
Yes.
They're crimes of power.
Mhm.
They're crimes of dominance.
Mhm.
They're crimes of
Yes.
control. The same thing with abuse.
Mhm.
Whether that's interpersonal relationship abuse or just stranger abuse.
Mhm.
It's all power. It's got nothing to do
And
with sex.
thank you for joining us here on
We have some
KUHSdenver.com.
comments.
No, we're going to continue with more comments. I just wanted to do a station identification for
Oh.
everybody who's joining us.
Yeah, because you're on.
KUHSdenver.com. I'm glad you joined us. We were lost for a second there. We had so many people logging in. We were locked off, and then we got right back
Let's
on.
look at comments.
So
Yeah, you
we
can-
got some
you can go.
awesome comments.
I
We
can't
can-
read that far. I'm old.
And I thank you for joining us here with Charlie Pacello and Rhonda Shea and Sylvia Taziri. Sylvia 80 Taziri. I gotta make
I
sure.
love that
that-
name. I love that name. That's a,
Thank
that's
you.
a fun name to say.
Thank
I
you.
call her Sat.
Set. Yeah. SAT. By Loretta Garcia, she's listening. Thank you, Loretta. Thank you for all
Yeah,
those
thank you.
gift baskets that you've been giving us to give away to our audience. And yeah, she says that women should be honored. Yes.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Our friend Juan, hola. Gracias por estar sintonizándonos. And Loretta says that King Solomon wrote how women should be treated in the Proverb 31.
She's
So
quoting
Proverb 31. We should look that up. Look it up.
Yeah.
She's quoting
Okay.
biblical information there for us. Thank you.
Where's
Yeah.
who's that
Loretta?
from? Look up Proverb 31. Let's see what it says.
Yeah, and Sid Quintana, hello, Sid. Gay Moran, hello, everyone. Hello, okay, thanks for tuning in. Albert Quintana, Mr.
Albert
Q
had some
on the
good stuff.
fly. the no-fly zone.
The no-fly zone. That's great.
But thank you all for watching us. Okay, go ahead.
And people are tuned in from all over the world too.
That's
Look
right.
over
No,
there.
we
We've got
do.
United
We'd like to
States.
say hello to Pinellas Park, United States, Arenas de la Ilguna, Spain, Istanbul, Turkey,
Look at that.
Spain several
Romania.
times,
You guys in
Romania,
Romania?
Brazil,
Germany.
Ottawa, Canada, and all along the Front Range. We'd like to thank everybody for joining
And for
in.
President Donald Trump, who
No,
decided
don't breathe that in.
he decided to tune in and get some
Oh,
lessons because he
no.
kind of needs some lessons on
He
how to treat
does.
women. So I heard he was listening. Yeah, I heard he was going to appoint Bill Cosby to his cabinet on women's issues.
You think? That'll be really.
He and Judge Roy Moore can sit there together.
And we're going to talk some more to Charlie and myself about the male issues that we put up with women. Women in power.
What you
Women
talking
in
about?
power
Yeah.
that
What
have
you talking about?
their own businesses, and if you go to work for them, a lot of them have power, and they will use it on you. So they'll call you into the office and tell you, like stuff like, "Why are you being so stiff?" Well, what's wrong? How come you don't? You
What
know,
kind of stiff are they talking about?
That's what
Yes,
I was wondering.
that's the kind of thing.
Because they might call you in if it's not exactly, hey, that's not cool, Henry.
Jump in, Charlie.
It can happen. You're right. It definitely
It
can happen.
right?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it turns on. We're both male and female. We both have the male energy and the female energy, and when that very assertive part of a woman gets activated within them, they can become very controlling and dominating and absorbed into power just as well. Power. It's not just limited.
Is it because
to
they're
men.
on top?
It's because they like to be on top. They like to be on top.
Yeah.
That's it. Sometimes that's not such a bad thing.
No, it's really a good thing.
Sometimes that's a
Just stay on top, women.
really
You
great
are
thing.
in
I
power.
think it's great.
They want you to do all the work, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
All the time.
All the
All the
time.
time.
Eat tortillas,
That's it.
pionelos, sopapillas, como quieras.
You're getting everybody hungry.
Yeah, I know.
That's
Now
how
everybody's
morning
food,
yet.
everything's hungry.
That's
That's not right.
Yeah, but there's a lot of stuff that is going on right now in the modeling world, and I just want to mention this. There's a lot of photographers that they call themselves photographers, but they're just a person with a camera that they think they can take good pictures. And there's again, the new models. Some of them they don't know what is going on. Some of them they just want to get the attention, but they do offer the models wine or beer before the photo shoot to get them drunk.
Not good.
Only a few of them I know that they said, you want to drink, just to lose up, and that's fine. But there's some of them that they're pushing so hard, because they want you to get drunk and take advantage of you. So just make sure that you always go with somebody when you have a photo shoot. If you don't know the photographer, you get like a bad feeling. Always try to tell everybody or just put it. I mean, they post. This is the thing. Everybody posts on Facebook like, I'm on my way here, blah 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 blah. Put the address if you're gonna start saying stuff. But if you already are out there, if you somehow have like followers, don't check in certain places until you're gone. Because that's another way to tell
Right, I do
people
that after
I'm
you-
here.
yeah.
Yes, and that's what I do. So a lot of people was like, can you check in? I'm sorry, I can't. Just because I have my kids with me. I'll
once
do
you
that
leave.
after I leave. That's or unless there's a place where everybody is there. And things like that where I'm not, putting myself in danger.
And
or
I
my
think that's good
family.
advice for all women, young women, any woman. I think that's good advice whether they're a model or not. But
Yeah.
modeling is always been an industry where women have been taken advantage of if they're not careful.
Acting too.
Yeah,
Yes,
acting.
yeah.
You were taking advantage of a lot in acting by women, weren't you?
Yeah, well,
You would dress up really nice, you look really sharp, and they would just take you into the back room. Didn't you tell me some of those stories? Or no.
He's like, shut up, Henry.
Because women can take advantage of you so quickly. They just have to.
Well, you have
Well,
to not want to be taken advantage of.
How
to
do you
be
do
taken
that?
advantage
Okay,
of.
how do you?
right.
Let me see, Henry.
Sometimes it's.
How do you do
Yeah.
that?
You were a musician, Henry. So explain that to us. How
Explain.
was that?
He's just shutting up.
It's like, okay.
It's like, abuse me,
You
please.
take it from there.
Oh,
Charles.
sometimes, as when you're, it's not being taken advantage of if you want it. So if you have a pretty girl that's coming
Very
at
pretty
you,
girl.
when I was acting, a pretty girl would come up to me, and I was single and was
was
not,
okay.
and was open to it. Yes, I mean, if a pretty girl came up to me, I wanted it.
But none of
What do
the-
you think
but
the
if I didn't want
power
it,
of the? I
what's that?
can't say that, huh? The power of
Don't say it.
Okay.
Don't say it. I know what you're
the
going to
power
say.
of a woman. What is their power?
Oh my gosh,
Is it their smile, their breasts, their wiggle,
You know,
their perfume?
Let's put it this
It's not
way.
going that way.
Let's put it this way.
Barking a lot.
Entire civilizations have been overthrown because of the power of a woman. The Greeks had a war because of a woman. It was Helen,
Right.
against
That's
Troy. She went, and so it can absolutely have the power of a woman is actually supreme in that way, because you can lose control and you can forget yourself. You can forget as a man. You can forget your goals. You can forget your dreams. You can forget your hopes.
Well,
I mean,
she's on top.
And then you also have, if you look at now, there's also a dark side to it as well, because and Shakespeare wrote a great play about this, which is called Macbeth.
oh, yes.
And Lady Macbeth she knew the power that a woman held, and it could use and control and manipulate and pull that darkness out. And he was, because of this addiction that Macbeth had to Lady Macbeth, that he couldn't even do the right thing by not killing the king and taking over, that he would do anything to have that. And it was this lust that he couldn't control with him. And we all have to face those dark
We're
feelings.
lustful men.
Lustful, well, it's a power. I mean,
Now,
it is a.
now, here's the other thing.
It's a force. There's no
Lust
doubt
is a
about
Now they get us men. Not only take us over, they turn us into babies.
it.
Well, I mean, the lust and women, if you're right, they do have that power, because you see it all the time. You see men ruin their families.
Yes.
They ruin their lives. They lose jobs. They give up their children. They give up. I mean, it's like, for what?
Yes.
You
It's
know,
the power of the.
Yeah. We're not saying that. We're not saying
We're not saying that, but yes, it happens.
She won't let me say it.
I
She'll
won't
let
let
me
you say it. I won't let you say
You
it.
know,
That makes me
and-
uncomfortable. It's a bad word. We're not saying that word.
We have the lawyer right.
Yeah, right.
She's
Yeah.
HR. I go, take it to HR. I am HR.
We can't get him out of here.
Yeah, because that's because of the power too. That's where, a lot of people know how to put themselves in a situation to make it look like she's being sexual harassed.
Yes.
And doesn't matter what you do or what you say, because you're the guy,
Mhm.
is your fault.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so
Yeah,
it goes on both ways.
it
And as
does.
women, I think you have to. I mean, women also have the power to bring out the best in men.
Yes.
And
Behind
They
every
can be-
good man is a good woman.
yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
there's some truth to that.
That's
They
where
can
that
make a
thing
man
comes.
2.0,
know,
and there's no doubt about it.
And so hopefully, that in your relationships, you use that to bring out the best in a person, even if that relationship isn't meant to be a lifelong relationship.
Mhm.
Even if it's just, just a brief encounter, or somebody that you're going to have a long-term relationship with, or a
Always
lifetime
try to make-
relationship.
Or a one-night stand.
But
Yeah, you try to do your best that night.
yeah.
That's right.
Do your
Gotta do your best. Do your best.
Bring the best.
That's right. Bring your best. You got that one night. Bring your best.
Yeah, you
That's
got
how you
that one
got,
night to
I'm
prove
telling
yourself.
you.
According to her,
That's
it's just big.
it. You got it. Oh, bring your best.
Oh, Lord. But so it goes both ways
Yeah.
in that, in terms of the light and the darkness, like everything else in our life, because we're half light and half dark, I think.
That's right.
What is the old, you've probably seen it, there's posters on it with the wolves, the two wolves, the dark wolf and the light wolf.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
a Native American saying that there are two wolves living inside of everyone.
Yeah.
Two wolves, a dark one and a light one. And which one is the stronger? It's the one you feed.
That's
Yes,
right.
exactly.
That's right.
And that goes along with men behaving badly and women behaving badly, and how you
What
can
about
change
this?
that.
Okay, these women come up. He's been harassing me. It was 30 years ago.
Well, let me tell you something.
How do you do that?
Well, Sylvia, you chime in on this, but first of all, many times when there is an incident of sexual abuse, particularly, versus just harassment, but abuse, there is a great disparity in power, whether that was a physical power over the person, or age difference, or monetary or work power. The woman feels helpless. Many times self-esteem issues come into play with that, and they ruin their self-esteem in the process of this. And for years and years culturally, and even now, people tend to sometimes not believe women. They certainly didn't believe them years ago. Even rape, well, she wanted it. She dressed that way.
Yeah.
You know,
Jesus Christ.
well, now that's
Yeah,
what,
geez.
right? And then they get to put on the stand and they have to talk about all the stuff that happened to them in front of everybody, and nobody's going to believe them. They're going to call them a slut. They're going to bring out their sexual history. They're going to say, well, I don't care if she was 14. She was sleeping with half the football team, or whatever, which is irrelevant. So all of these things come forward. If they have children, they might not want their children to know about that. The person may still be in great power and they might be afraid of them. And it re-traumatizes you to bring up those instances when you discuss the things that happened to you that were traumatic in your life.
From 30 years ago.
Whether it's from 30 years ago or 50 years ago or yesterday, you get re-traumatized many times. It's
The reason I was
PTSD, that's what
chuckling
it
is when
is.
she said sleep. Now, wording has a lot to do with everything.
Yeah.
When you say sleep, I think
Right.
sleep. And when you say sex, I think sex.
Uh-huh.
So if you sleep, are you just snoozing or what? Sleeping with somebody?
Well, I guess it depends on who you're having sex with. Some people you could probably sleep right through it.
Oh, you got this out.
You can mostly drink
Sylvia, this is funny. I'll never forget this. She says, and this was put out by somebody we're not going to mention names, but he wanted me to sleep with him to get a record deal. And Sylvia says, well, take a nap and get a record deal.
Yeah, there you go.
Sleep is sleep.
Take advantage,
Sleep is sleep.
Yeah, but this is about people coming up like 30 years later and saying something. I do support some of them, but like there were some actresses that they were saying about this director, that they kept sleeping with him because he's like the big guy in Hollywood, whatever. That I don't really care much, just because you wanted.
You did it. You chose it at the time.
Yes.
You wanted the
Wasn't like you
attention.
raped,
You
you
wanted the fame.
Yeah.
And that's what you allow this person to do it.
Or-
That's different than somebody being raped when they were little and things like that. But if you're doing it for the fame and all that stuff, that's not rape. That wasn't sexual harassment. You did it because that's what you wanted at the time. So
Because you could have walked away.
Yeah,
You
no,
could
what
have
about
walked away.
this?
You could have made a different choice.
even
That's
if you
about
were
taking
not a big
responsibility
actress,
for the part you played in.
Now, if you can't, like if you were in, I mean, that's a little different situation, but you do take the secretary in an office who's got 3 kids. She's a single mom because dad's a deadbeat and left. And she's got to take care of those children. And then the boss comes in and says, look, you don't do this. I'm gonna not only am I gonna fire you, but I'm gonna say I fired you because you stole stuff and your career's over and you're not gonna get another job in this town.
I was.
So that's a little, you know what I mean? Now, so if that person gives in to that person, to me, that's a little bit different because they may feel they had no choice because of the situation. Now, if you're an actress and you're going in and it's one part, one director, you've got multiple places you can go.
And even though that director, like they were saying, well, he's like one that was like the biggest one, and he'll decide if you work on another, film from another director, or whatever. It doesn't matter. It's your integrity, it's your reputation. You don't.
Or don't
it.
go back 4 times.
Or this.
It's like, okay, I went, it was terrible. I went to this hotel and all 4 times. It's like after 1, you'd probably like say no.
No.
What about this?
I said, okay. 3 more, no.
Young boys, they go through their puberty and they start getting, horny and stuff. And they're at school and they got a beautiful teacher up there and she starts harassing them. A position of power.
Yeah, that is. That's
Yeah.
bad. That's
It
very,
is.
and you see
Yeah,
that.
the young
Sure,
boy
I see a
says,
lot of these
hey.
teachers.
Yeah.
The young boy says, hey. Yeah,
My husband's response to that, which I thought was kind of, I don't know.
Corny.
No, I thought it was bad. I like a size 8 shoe in his butt when he said it. Like you're seeing female teachers sometimes having relationships with male students, and you're seeing vice versa. But more female, I guess it shocks us a little more when we think it's a female because we think of the nurturing nature of a woman should be more mother-like. But so we tend to punish women anyway for crimes harder than we punish men because we aren't supposed to do that. Yeah. But anyway, you see that going on, and you have to wonder. Like what would possess you? I mean, it's child. It's pedophilia. It's weird.
It's still
And
pedophilia.
my husband says, They're like, with 16 boy, that's the luckiest kid alive. I wish I would have had. I'm like,
What was the movie? There was a movie back with Dustin Hoffman. It was,
Yes, well, I forgot that movie.
Oh,
gosh,
Mrs. Robinson.
Mrs. Robinson.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it plays
The
into the
song
male
is,
fantasy. You know,
They have a song in there for Mrs.
But you know
Robinson.
what? When I actually came to
You have to
United
play that
States, I
song.
went to Phoenix first, Arizona, and the high school. I had my math class, and the teacher he was really cute. He was young. He was a bodybuilder. You know, white, green eyes. You know, I mean, he was like the cutest thing ever. All the girls, every time he passed by, you know, our hallway, whatever, you know, they will like smack him, and he's like, please do not do that. You know, like I don't want to be disrespectful or anything, but this is also my job. I'm not here, you know, and that's because, you know, he looked that way. But they wouldn't listen. They kept doing it to
girls
him.
are bad.
And I felt bad for him. I
Okay,
was
so you
like,
admit it.
oh, God.
It's you females that are causing all this issue. You said girls are bad.
Well, they can be.
Yeah,
They can be.
they can be more than bad.
More than
They
bad.
can be dangerous.
They can,
Dangerous.
Dangerous.
Just
They
like
can
play
set
Misty
up-
for me, right?
they can set up an unsuspecting young man as quick
Yes,
as
right.
like this.
Yes.
They're
Oh,
not-
they can cook your rabbit.
Yeah.
Like on Play Misty for me. If you ever
Yeah.
seen that movie.
Oh, that movie. Oh, God, yeah. I mean, they can do it. And I think it's our
You know, I'm cooking
responsibility.
your rabbit, right?
I think it's our responsibility as parents to teach our daughters to respect men and to not
yes.
play with their emotions, because they're
Yes.
going to handle it different than women. They're going to get angry. You could get yourself in a problem that way. And I think it's just like we teach our young men that, you know, how to behave as young men. And we don't want our children. I mean, would you prefer that your child not engage in sexual activity until they're married? Absolutely. Who wouldn't? But in reality, that's probably
That's
not
not
going to
gonna
happen. And
Sorry.
so you want to prepare them for being able to say no, and knowing when to say yes, and when it doesn't, and when it's not harmful to you, or you're not doing something that's you're gonna regret the rest of your life. You're not gonna die from it.
Yeah.
And what about
You know,
this?
or have a
Smacking
baby or any other
in
stuff.
sports, smacking each other in the butt.
I don't think that's sexual. either.
Why?
I don't know.
I think that's just like a I don't know, something that they do all the time. That's
Yeah.
just,
Okay,
Well,
so
I
you-
do it all- I
the coach,
do that.
the
I was like,
coach,
hey,
the
all
coach
right,
is,
guys, yeah.
the coach is
Yeah.
smacking the girl basketball team in the butt.
Right.
They just said it was
well,
okay.
that's different.
That's
I mean,
different.
if
No,
you
no, no,
say
that's
that to a
different.
girl, yeah, that's different.
They just said it was okay.
I don't know if that's even bad if it's not. If it's just a little smack, I'm not sure.
Yeah, I think if it's
How
a
does
guy,
that
like
work?
they will think right, and they just go like this to their back
Or
or
the
something.
back.
You
but
can't even
yeah,
touch
Back, I
it.
think,
yeah,
like,
something
you know,
like
I
that.
think it's different. Yeah, you know.
With women, you can't.
No, guys, yeah, hey, you know,
Why?
because I don't know, it's just something.
But guys have better butts most of the time. So, you know.
I don't know. I think the rule is if there's any question, don't do
Don't
it.
do it. If you question it, and I think you're exactly right.
Don't do
The
it.
moment you question it, don't do it. If in that moment your conscience, you know, you got to trust your conscience. You got to trust that inner
Got it for a
guidance in
reason.
you.
Yeah.
That's what that's your connection to your soul. That's your connection to God. That's your connection to yourself. And if at any moment you are in question, don't do it.
Don't
Just
You
don't
say
do it. Just
mine's
like
quirked.
what yours they're like this.
And then
Henry's is like this. You know,
And
that's
I
it.
think too, the other side of that is be clear and concise with your answers and your responses as
Yeah.
women. And don't be afraid if someone is inappropriate and they continue that behavior to go ahead and tell someone.
Or
about
pull
it.
your gun. And with open carry now, pull the gun. I'm just kidding.
Violence doesn't solve.
Violence isn't solved.
Thank you for joining us here on KUHSdenver.com. This has been a lot of fun. Me too. Don't forget, coming up at 3, Lowell Whiteman's bringing up some more stuff. He's bringing some heavyweights in here. 2 ladies who are in power in their own businesses. So you want to stick around and check that out coming up at 3 o'clock. An all-star cast here today with Sylvia A.D. Taziri, Charlie Pacello, and of course Miss Rhonda Shea. And thank you for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. We went off just for a second because we had a lot of people logging in there. So there's 2 splits. If you want to watch both videos, you can. Thank you for tuning in to us here on KUHSdenver.com. If there's anything any of you guys like to say before
And
we
Henry
log off.
Archuleta.
And Henry Archuleta, yes.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm the one who brings the twist to it all just for the fun of it. So it's like,
Well, and behave out there. Be smart and behave.
Well, I think just want to close with, I think there's a great Cherokee saying that that the ideal between a man relationship, man and woman relationship, or man-man or woman-woman, but a woman can bring a man closer to his soul, and a woman needs to be able to walk free and safe on this earth. And if we can get to that place
It's beautiful.
where people can really love each other on that deep of a level, we've got to get past these issues so we can get to those deeper truths about intimate love.
And I just want to say, have thick skin. If depends on the industry that you're working on. Just make sure that you know what's going on around, and check what you're doing. If you're receiving like a lot of messages that you're not comfortable with, check what you're doing and maybe share some other stuff, and respect yourself.
Yep.
Yep.
And guys, make sure if she doesn't want it and she says no, don't do it.
Yeah, don't go buy her that
Don't go.
diamond ring.
Don't go buy that diamond. Just leave that diamond. She doesn't want it, don't get it for her.
We all say goodbye for now.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
That was great, you guys. That was freaking off the chain cool.
So we went offline twice
Oh,
or once?
once. There's just 2 videos.
Okay, because somebody was asking if we were still alive.
Yes, we were. That's the first one.
That's the first one.
It was good. It was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for hello. Nice meeting
Nice
you.
to meet you, finally.
Yeah, remember, you guys, we're still live.
Oh, we are?
We're still live. On
still
our
live?
secondary camera, we'd like to
Oh,
say
oh,
goodbye to
secondary
everybody.
camera.
Nice stages.
So we'd like to say goodbye to everybody for
Bye.
now. We're saying goodbye. Talk to y'all later.
Bye-bye.